What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Talking Halos. I'm your host today, Jared Timms, and I'm joined alongside my co-host, my partner in crime, Nate Green. Nate, forgetting about you for a little while just because I don't care about you. We're with the world famous Taylor Blake Ward. You know I got to give it to you for that. World famous. How's that sound, man?
I have friends all over the world, so I guess that permits. I guess that checks.
Yep. Yep. World famous in Japan as well. I know we talked about that. We get on Yahoo Japan all the time. So got a lot of followers from Japan on that side of stuff. Nate, I won't forget about you. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good. Good to have you on, TB.
Good seeing you, Nate. You getting a little scruffy there, buddy.
I know. It's getting that time, you know.
Yeah, Bryce Harper is really getting some impersonators.
Yeah, it's huge.
Don't get his head too big. He does not look like.
Yeah, I mean,
he's a lefty. I've seen the swing. He's a lefty. He doesn't swing like Bryce Harper. I'll tell you that much. So,
Jesus is a lefty. Well, Aguilar, but you know.
all right, guys. All right. Taylor, we're gonna talk a little bit of prospects like always, and we have some not news, I'd say, but like Angels are looking for a manager, some coaches. We'll obviously talk about that, but before we get it rolling, let everybody know where they can follow you. You wrote a book, by the way. I think I mention this every time, but you also wrote a book, which is kind of cool. Let everybody know about the book. And then anywhere else, they can find you, because I know you're going to be doing some Baseball America stuff too.
Yeah. Actually, I want to correct myself on something. Jesus Aguilar is not a lefty swinger.
Nope. I wasn't gonna say it, but
yeah. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Taylor Blake Ward. If you are interested in the book that I wrote, it's the biography of Bob Fontaine, the scout that signed Darren Erstad, Tim Salmon, Troy Percival, Tony Gwynn, among others, Ozzie Smith, Randy Johnson. Jim Abbott. Great book. It's on Amazon and other book outlets, called In Search of Millionaires: The Life of a Baseball Gypsy. And yeah, man, just there you go. That's what it looks like. Just drilling away. Knocked out. I have the Baseball America Handbook, the Angels chapter this year, second year in a row. Pretty excited about that, and can't give away too much. Purchase the Baseball America Handbook via baseballamerica.com. Always got to plug those guys. And yeah, man, just looking for. I don't know if I'm giving away our recording time or anything, but looking forward to the CMAs tonight. Hopefully some good performances. And just plugging away, man. It's that time of year where free agency and managerial searches and other things are going on, and just staying busy. My phone is sitting right next to me in the emergency scenario. Just in case.
So Dale Earnhardt or Jeff Gordon?
Oh man, at the time or currently? No. I was always Jeff Gordon is actually probably what got me into sports. I'm not even going to say NASCAR. Probably what got me into sports. Jeff Gordon was always my guy. Love Jeff Gordon. Got a chance to meet him a few times, and fantastic guy. Very, very business savvy. Has done a very good job of marketing himself and the sport. Did so during his racing career as well. And I've got an Earnhardt sticker on the truck, though. I've been yelled at for that too. So, but no, my favorite driver currently did not have a great year this year. So we'll see what happens next year.
Yep. Sorry, had to throw that out there because Taylor does dabble in the racing scene a little bit. So
yeah,
let's get on to
big congrats to Ryan Blaney and the Blaney family. Doubt they're going to listen to this. Nothing personal, guys, but the Blaney family, long racing history. Ryan is a fantastic kid. Really happy for him being able to win the championship for NASCAR this year. And, between Dave and Dave's father, really a great family. Really happy for everyone over on that front. And good baseball player, Ryan Blaney, good baseball player. All right. Has good connections to Mike Trout, actually. Let's incorporate the baseball.
You learn something new every day. But let's get on to the baseball side of stuff.
All right.
You mentioned Baseball America. You're getting the prospect list going on that side of stuff. Quick question before, I don't want to dive into prospects too much because we have managerial search and coaches and things like that I like to talk about. Who's the number one prospect after 5 games for the Angels next season?
That's a good
So
question.
basically,
That's
who's
a good.
the number one prospect that's
I
not
like
named
that.
Nolan Shanwell?
That's a great question. It is a bit of a coin toss, depending on your views on young pitching or young hitting. Without giving anything away on order, Nelson Rada, very impressive. Great bat to ball skills, has a chance to grow in some power. It's not existent at the moment, but a chance to grow in, and he can hit. Could be an everyday center fielder when all is said and done. And Caden Dana, really impressive young pitcher. Kind of had some workload management stuff going on this year. He really improved the quality of his fastball and the quality of his slider. He has a curveball and a changeup that have glimpses of really showing something. Strike throwing ability. Looks maybe to be a mid rotation kind of guy, maybe a 3 or 4 in your rotation. It's hard to find guys like that in any organization. So, kind of pending your opinion on things, I would go with those 2 guys as a very safe bet as the April 2023 or 24 number 1 prospect in the organization.
I'm glad you picked up what I was laying down there because
That's good. I like that.
Nolan Shanwell probably is not going to be a top prospect after spring training for very long for the Angels, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, he had a fantastic year from what we saw of him. Nate, I know you're not quite on board with it, but I like what we're seeing there. We can talk about that all day, but I like what I'm seeing from Nolan Shanwell. I think that he's the future for the Angels at first base. So Instructs. The Angels had a little bit of fall instructs status stuff. Talk to us about that. Any standout names, anything like that you can let us know about?
Maybe a surprise one was Anthony Skull. They held a couple games at Angel Stadium internally. Kind of like a pickup game where you put everyone against a wall and I pick you kind of deal. Kind of similar to that. But Anthony Skull was the MVP of the series, the 3-game series at Angel Stadium. Really impressive. Kind of a 4th, 5th outfield kind of guy. But I think there's some major league quality in there, maybe a little bit of platoon upside. Left-handed hitter, so it's always strong side platoon for lefties. Interesting case, I think. Juan Flores, the catcher down in the Dominican, was a big standout. Might even get a full season debut next year, catching, depending on kind of what's going on with the depth chart. Dario Laverde, another catcher, young catcher, was very impressive. So, yeah, more on the young side, the young side of things, but definitely some guys that kind of jumped a little bit more. Riley Bowman. I'm going to butcher that until I literally ask him how to pronounce it. But Riley Bowman, the 12th round pick from this last draft, came back healthy from Tommy John and showing some really electric stuff. Big questions about the strike throwing ability, but the stuff is pretty unquestionable. Really, the team is very excited about him as well. And those are guys that are going to be more back end or non-top 30 guys, possibly. Maybe some that sneak into the earlier parts of that, but definitely some guys to keep an eye on.
I like it. We're always looking for those sneaky guys that are running up there. So, Nate, you got any prospect questions for Taylor before we bounce on to some Angel talk?
Yeah, I guess we could go into the prospect talk just a little bit here. You mentioned Kane and Dana, 3-4 rotation. Angels seem to have a lot of 5 guys. Who's the next pitcher that you would highlight besides Dana that you're like super excited about?
Super. I don't want to give away a whole lot when it comes to rankings, but Sam Bachman and Ben Joyce are going to be a little bit ahead of some other arms. More proximity based and what they're capable of doing even starting next year. I think there's a lot of excitement around those guys. It's power arsenals and it's going to play up in relief. Sam has a chance to start. I don't know what percentage chance I'd put that on, but definitely 2 guys are excited. But I would say one guy that really stands out to me is Walbert Urena. And Joel Hurtado is another guy that really excites me personally. And the organization's very excited about him as well. Doesn't really have a changeup, so his startability is very much in question. But he throws strikes, holds velocity. If you move him to the bullpen, that could be a very dangerous power arm. Walbert Urena up to 102 while he was starting. Has a really good changeup, really progressed with the breaking ball, incorporated a sinker this year, and it's a power sinker. It's 95 to 98, I think averaging about 96, 97, and it's a power sinker that really altered his season. If you look at the back half of his season, he had a sub 3.5 ERA roughly for the latter half of the season, really pitched well down the stretch. I think a potential breakout arm for the Angels, even though there's people that know about him mostly because of the velocity, but I think that there's actually something more there. I don't think he's just a thrower. I think he's becoming a pitcher, and I think there's something that could be really special there. I mean, I don't want to put, sometimes comparisons are a little bit unfair, and some people want to say that he could be a Luis Castillo or that kind of guy. I think, Jared, you and I were talking about, I think the upside here is maybe a Jordan Ventura. And that's a great arm. I mean, that's a really great arm.
Mhm.
It is an average rotation arm if you get him staying in the rotation, but that's a special arm. And I think that that's a realistic peak outcome. I wouldn't say that that's going to be the outcome, but I think a peak outcome could be a Jordan Ventura kind of guy.
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit. He ended the year really well. Got a start. He started the game 1 in the postseason.
Game 2, I believe,
game 2.
it was
Okay,
in Rancho.
Yeah.
It was in Rancho.
I know he got to finish the year strong, which was huge because I know that was someone we talked about early around this time last year. So good to hear that he's turned some eyes, especially for you being a Baseball America guy. So
yeah, really excited about him. I think it's a special arm. Upside is a little limited with his size and his ability to locate, but yeah, very, very talented special arm.
Yep, and I'll say this: don't sleep on a friend of the show, Ryan Costu, next year coming off Tommy
Yes.
John either. So
Very much so.
With all that being said, let's get on to some major league talk here. And the question that everybody wants to know when it comes to the manager side of stuff is, where's Shohei Ohtani going? No, I'm kidding. Let's talk manager. Let's talk manager. We don't need to talk about Shohei Ohtani.
We can. That's all right.
No, we won't talk Shohei Ohtani like that. Like we can speculate all around. We could say he's going.
I can give you 3 words right now about Shohei Ohtani.
I don't know.
Exactly.
I was gonna say 3 words. That's also Los Angeles Dodgers too. So
no, I mean, I can do it really quick. I think there's only about a third of the league that's going to be able to afford him. Money's not going to be his focus, but it is something that only about a third of the league is really going to be able to put the money down to get him. I think he's opened up a little bit about the East Coast, so you can't rule out the Mets or the Yankees or the Red Sox anymore the way that you used to. I think the Rangers are a threat, even though they've spent, it's going to put them over $1 billion something to win another World Series, but it's working. So, I don't know about the Phillies, but maybe the Phillies are an option. And I think the West Coast teams, Seattle, San Diego, well, maybe not San Diego anymore, based on their financial situation.
Yeah.
But I think the Angels are in. I think the Angels have just as good an opportunity as a lot of teams. It would not surprise me if he returned. It also just wouldn't surprise me if he didn't return. So big ol' I don't know, but I think if you start playing some percentages, I think you can understand that the Angels have a better than 10% chance or so to 1 in 10 chance to get him.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was not on
You
my
left out the one team that everyone's talking about today too.
The Cubs.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah,
they can go anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what his desire of the Midwest is, but I think Texas, Chicago. I think Seattle is a dark horse on this. I think Seattle is going to at least make a huge attempt. Whether or not he wants to go or not, but a huge attempt for Seattle. I really think San Francisco is in the best position, and I've said that for a while. I think, Jared, you and I have talked about that. I think San Francisco is in a great position. They've got the finances. They're starting to build a big picture, and I think Farhan's really good in that negotiating room. But no one's going to know until he really signs. And just more personal opinion, I think San Francisco is really well positioned to get him.
Can we just speculate, guess for fun, just because we want to? Can you guess a date on signing for Shohei Ohtani?
When is the winter meetings? December 9th-ish?
Yes. First, second week of December, yeah.
Second week of December? I'll say the first week. I'll say the first week of December.
Okay.
I'll go December 9th is my date.
Saturday.
All
Okay.
right. All right.
Oh,
All right.
oh, you know what? No, December 8th. It'll be a Friday.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
All right.
Just have to have some fun with you, TBW.
Yeah, that's fine. That's all right.
Let's get on to manager talk here. If you asked me last week, I would have said Buck Showalter or Benji Gill or somebody like that. It feels like to me that there's been a shift, and it feels like it's going to be Ron Washington. But Taylor, I'd love to get your feel on this. What maybe you might be hearing, like if there maybe it might be some dark horses. What's your feel on the next Angels manager?
Yeah, I mean, I've tried to garner as much information as I can, and it's limited of what the organization is going to give you. I think that Buck and Benji are two of the guys that have been notably noted regularly, and I think that Buck is definitely an option. I think Benji is definitely an option. And you mentioned a few other guys. I think in the last week we've started to kind of gain a little bit more. When it comes to Buck, obviously his relationship with Perry Manassian and his experience is going to be kind of make him a highlight piece. Thing I'm worried about with Buck, 1-6 in playoff series, unless you count his 1-1 record in wild card games. The only series win was a sweep over Detroit. They were swept by
Against the
Kansas.
worst manager all time.
Well, they were swept by Kansas City the next week, but Kansas City was good. I mean, Buck has a great history of building with young teams. It's just not a strong history at all in the postseason. I don't think he has any postseason success. I think it's a safe thing to look at him, and I think that it's someone that's been in the game for a long time, has done this for a long time, has shown the ability to do certain things. But I think his decision making, and we're going to be nitpicky, but it's proper. His postseason choices have been pretty iffy. Benji Gill, he won the Mexican League Championship 4 out of his 6 seasons down there as a manager. Now that was with the Culiacan Tomateros, so that's a usually dominant team. But even his final year with Guadalajara, really great season. Didn't end up winning the championship, but great season. Very beloved down there in Mexico. I think President Lopez Obrador even mentioned that the Padres should hire him. Olympic WBC manager. This is a guy that has managerial experience. I think just going with that. And I think that there's a lot of reason to look at Benji Gill as a serious candidate. I'm trying to think of, I guess what I would probably think is I would look at Benji over Buck. I think someone that's come into this game and is starting to show success, even though it's not major league postseason success, it is managerial success. You mentioned Ron Washington. I mean, a guy that's literally done everything there is to do in baseball, except for, he has won a ring, just not as a manager. But, outside of his off-field struggles, which I don't really want to go into, he's going to be 71, 72 years old going into next season. I think it's the clear choice when you're talking about experience and success. I mean, he made it to the World Series twice with the Rangers. He's won as a coach with different organizations. So I think Ron Washington's, on paper, it makes the most sense. And it seems like there is a lean. I mean, I know Sam Blum of The Athletic reported that the Angels met with him last night. Once again, sorry if I'm giving the date of our record away or anything like that. But, I think between those three, I think you have 3 good candidates. I think there's a very obvious one based on experience, and I think there's an obvious one based on connection with the players at this stage of baseball. And I think that's Benji. I don't know how much you want to dive into the other guys at all, but, Gary DiSarcina and Ron Renicky are guys that come up from the Socia era. I think Gary is actually getting a long look here. Renicky obviously has done some managing in the past at the upper levels to some capacity. Probably good technicians on both fronts, especially Gary. I don't know if Ron is getting an interview or not. It sounds like Gary has at least received an interview potentially. The one that there's a few guys that I think are interesting. Ray Montgomery, I mean, I've talked to some people independently. I don't think Ray is a major league manager. I really don't. But the fact that he is getting attention from multiple teams says something. He must be really good in the interview room, or he must be a really good technician of the game. And I think what you need for a technician more is a bench coach. So someone like, if if Ron Washington or Ray Montgomery were able to be a bench coach, I don't think that's something that you could falter on by any means. But Ray, getting attention from the Astros, and I think going to the Astros, Joe Espada is a name that is really making his rounds across baseball. But for some reason, he's been talked about for half a decade and has not gotten a managerial job. So there must be something missing there, and I don't know what that is. Couldn't tell you at all what that is. Ray Montgomery getting a lot of attention though, and surprisingly for me under that degree. And then there's some former players, and I think the big thing on this is Artie Moreno is going to have a say in this. And I think if it ends up being someone from the Angels from the 2000s, I think you're looking more at a decision made by Artie Moreno as opposed to the organization. But something I will say about that is Tim Salmon. Tim Salmon's name has come up. I don't know if he's even gotten an interview or not. Personally, I would not think, he has zero managerial experience at all. But he was the face of the franchise for 20-something years. One thing I'll say, I know when he put on the uniform this last September in a coaching capacity, he loved it. He absolutely loved being back in uniform, being back in the dugout. I think I would be worried to this degree, and I love Tim, and I haven't reached out to him about this because I don't want to yet. But I would be worried that this is something Tim wants to do as a hobby and not a career. And I mean that with a lot of respect to Tim, because I just don't know. But is this something that he sees as, hey, I want to be the guy that does this and takes the Angels to the promised land? Or is it, yeah, I want to be coaching. I want to do this. This seems like fun. The other thing I'll say about Tim that really was impressive is during Instructs, he was there. And his familiarity with the players and ability to connect with the players and coach the players made him the standout of Instructs. I know we usually talk about prospects when we talk about standouts from Instructional League, but Tim Salmon kind of was the standout with his ability to coach. And I think he proved that he has that capability and wants to do it and can do it and has attention to detail, which was something I didn't, that's an internal something I talked about internally with some of the Angels staff. And I think he really impressed. I will say that is if he wants to do this long-term, this is a career choice that he wants to make. And he has shown the ability. I don't think it would be the worst thing ever to happen when it comes to Angels managerial position. Just there is zero experience, and that's a rough thing. Torrey Hunter is also a name that gets brought up. Good businessman. Not sure. I don't remember if he did take on a development role with Minnesota after his playing career or not. But another guy, zero managerial experience. Someone that would be able to connect with the players, same as Tim or Benji, has had success in the past as a player, but not necessarily. Not necessarily. He has no managerial experience, and that is an alarming thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, we've mentioned it a lot. It feels like you want somebody with experience. It feels like the Angels haven't done that a lot in the past with the experience side of stuff. So, I'm all for it. While we were talking about this, by the way, John Murphy just came out and said Angels managerial search is at its final stage. Buck Showalter is among the remaining candidates. So I'm hoping that we get this podcast out before they make a decision. If they do, though, it's okay. I know this next question is going to probably come down to who the manager is. But there's a hitting coach spot available. There's a pitching coach spot available, and there is a bullpen catcher spot available. I don't care about Drew Buter's spot, actually. So I take that back. But hitting coach.
Taylor reported he was the catching coordinator.
Tell
him he got it. Tell him he was incorrect, Taylor.
All right. Yeah, I thought he was,
Drew was the he was a catching coach last year.
Yeah, okay. So you get it right, Jared.
But he was the bullpen coach 2 years ago.
Yeah. Tell him to get it right, Taylor. That's all we're asking for.
It's all right. I had to look it up too. So
all right.
I just had to give him a hard time.
I know it's a tough choice here. We can kind of go around the room here. Is there somebody that we want to see as a hitting coach and someone we would like to see as a pitching coach? Whether they're in the org or not in the org, Taylor. And then Nate, I'll go to you if you have anybody.
If you can strip Donnie Ecker from a World Series ring, give him the managerial position for all I care. I think he's fantastic. No, I mean, Joel Chamelis down in AAA, he had a lot of success with the Astros and the Mets developmentally. With the Angels, he's shown some glimpses of success, building some guys up. Trey Cabbage, Joe Adell, some development success, but guys that can identify problems is kind of what you're looking for. Identify what can be fixed with a swing, identify and kind of help and aid someone to get back to a swing or make the adjustments. And I mean, maybe Tim Salmon is that guy. I have no idea. Pitching coach, I don't know. Buddy Carlisle has left the organization, as well as the other pitching coordinator. Not Matt Weiss, obviously, but the other Dylan Axelrod.
Yeah.
Both of those guys have left the organization. I figured those would have been the guys that would have been near the front of this list, but obviously have taken other roles. I don't think I know. And in all honesty, we don't know if this is going to be a decision made by the incoming manager or the organization or both. With today's state of baseball, a lot of front office decisions dictate what happens with the major league team, as opposed to the managerial that was a fun one. Decisions. So I don't know. I really, I could speculate for hours on that, but I'm not a speculator. And I think Joel Chamelis, I think he's probably a name that's at least recognizable internally. But I couldn't give you anything on that.
I'll let the speculator speculate away then. Nate, what do you think?
Hitting coach, I think it could go a million different ways. Don't really know what way they want to go, if they want to keep it in the org or if they want to go outside the org. There's a bunch of different guys who could be. Salmon would be interesting. He did have some success as the high school head coach, won some games, things like that. So he does have some. If we're gonna play that game, but it would be interesting. I don't know if that's like something he would be interested in. Pitching coach, I do have a favorite actually. Reading some things, I think Dan Herron makes a lot of sense. Former Angel guy, bring it back. Was a big part of what Arizona did this last year, and just coming up with reports and helping guys understand what it's like to come up with the report and go attack hitters. So, and with the young staff that the Angels have with Silseth and Detmers and Sandoval and Canning and these guys that really need to take that next step forward, I think that could be the difference between them being, that number 4 starter that they've been, or that maybe number 2 or 3 starter that they could be. So I think Herron makes a lot of sense.
Damn it, you guys both took my guy. I said Salmon, and total dark horse for me is and I keep saying this, Mark Gubza as pitching coach. I don't know if he'd ever take it, but I think that would be a fantastic fit. I don't know if he would want it. I don't know if he wants to stay in the booth, but I would love to see Gooby in an Angels uniform. So that'd be a lot of fun. I know there's a lot more than what we see on TV from Gooby as well, but that is a great mind to have around some young guys too. So cool. With all that being said, Taylor, rattle everything off again, where people can find you. Twitter, Snapchat, Instagram. I don't know if you have an OnlyFans yet, but OnlyFans, all that fun stuff.
Oh boy. Twitter at Taylor Blake Ward. I don't TikTok. I don't Snapchat. You can find the book via Amazon and other book outlets. That's what it looks like. In Search of Millionaires, Life of Baseball Gypsy, and Baseball America Handbook through baseballamerica.com. And check out the Sporting Tribune, sportingtribune.com. Going to have some fun off-season work. Brought in a great staff with us this year between Taylor Ari and Joey Lynn and Marissa Flores and others. And really excited to kind of be working along Rosh Marchese again.
Absolutely. You guys do a great job at Sporting Tribune. I'd love to see what your business card says with all those titles that you have in there, but
utility writer,
that's what it is. All right, guys. As always, thank you so much for listening and watching here on YouTube and wherever you're listening. You can follow myself on Twitter, Jared_Tims, Nate at NateGreen34. Guys, thank you so much for listening. Have a great rest of your day.